The arrival of the 20th century across the American Midwest was anything but quiet. Theodore Roosevelt was President of the United States. His vision of personal prosperity, national expansion, and an exploding economy was irresistible and infectious. Land was readily available. The transcontinental rail system and America's rivers were bringing goods from sea to sea and to every point on the compass. They also brought scores of seekers who were embracing the great national adventure, pursuit of the American dream. If you were possessed of any measure of ingenuity and a willingness to work hard, America's heartland was a place where anything could happen. The great American success story was being written in every quarter by common people in the most unsuspecting of places. Places like Lamoni, Iowa, a small, dusty Midwestern farm town where the story of a partnership began. This is the story of a collaboration that launched a world-renowned institution of higher education and a national retail powerhouse. It is the story of Hy-Vee Corporation and Graceland University and of their close, century-long bond. And it is the story of Lamoni, Iowa, the community where this bond was forged and fostered and where its roots remain yet today. It comes as no surprise that Charles Hyde and David Vredenburg would each find their way to Lamoni. Both were devout members of the RLDS Church, now known as the Community of Christ, and Lamoni was the church's headquarters. In 1895, church leaders decided to build and sponsor an institution of higher learning. They recognized the value a liberal arts education would bring to the lives of young people preparing to strike out on their own. Graceland College, now Graceland University, was born that year. Families from all over made their way to Lamoni to set up housekeeping or to install their children at Graceland. The Vredenburg family was no different. 8 years after Graceland's founding, a 1903 copy of the Lamoni Chronicle pronounced under the heading Graceland News, session 1903-1904. Another registration this week, David Vredenburg, Moorhead, Iowa. Welcome, David, and may your work be both pleasant and profitable. Thus began a relationship between the founders of Hy-Vee and their beloved Graceland University that would profoundly affect generations of people from all walks of life and from every corner of the world. It was the genesis of a partnership that continues to thrive 118 years after David Milton Vredenburg enrolled for classes at Graceland on September 15, 1903. After moving around western Iowa and northern Missouri, both Hyde and Vredenburg found their way to Lamoni as young men. They were drawn by the church, by Graceland, and by what each perceived as a place that held great promise for their families and a superb business possibility for them. Both were merchants, but 1 year apart in age. Each ran supply and grocery companies that were prosperous and well regarded in their respective communities. Though very different men in many ways, they shared certain important characteristics. Both were savvy businessmen, and both could adeptly assess the risks and rewards of growth and investments. They each shared a love of commerce, of church, of Graceland, and of community. They understood community is comprised of different and diverse components, each of which must be nurtured and made perpetually strong and viable. Only in this way can the greater community thrive and grow and succeed. They knew that Graceland needed the support of the Lamoni community and that Lamoni needed the Graceland community. They knew their collaboration would bring gainful employment opportunities to their neighbors, and they knew if they played things just right, they would generate wealth sufficient to effect major changes in the lives of people, for it was the human family for whom they cared the most. Traces of the early years of the Hyde and Vredenburg partnership remain to this day. Just west of town, the Lamoni Packing Company structure still stands, showing its age, but holding its own against 75 years of exposure to the harsh Midwestern elements. Graceland students helped build the structure, and many were employed to help them make their annual tuition payments. This was the packing plant used by Hyde and Vredenburg to slaughter and pack the meat that would supply their growing grocery interests. The first Hyde and Vredenburg supply store still stands, as does their first cold storage facility. In their first act of corporate giving, an attractive building on Main Street was donated to the city of Lamoni by the company in 1941. The first floor was designated the public library and was quickly filled with books. The second floor was reserved as a permanent headquarters for the local Boy Scout troop. For the first time, thanks to the generosity of Hy-Vee, the Scouts had a place to call their own. The new company soon employed many local folks and brought a pervasive sense of excitement and purpose to the tiny community. Graceland President Earl Higdon helped with the process of incorporation of Hy-Vee in 1937. Hyde and Vredenburg were deeply grateful to the church, to Graceland, and to the community for the unwavering support of their enterprise. Both men were extraordinarily civic-minded and felt it their responsibility to serve the people who had so earnestly advocated for them. During the middle part of the 20th century, Charles Hyde served a term as mayor of Lamoni, while David Vredenburg served a stint on the city council. During the 30s and 40s, David Vredenburg served on the board of the State Bank of Lamoni, the Creamery Board, the Lamoni Coliseum Board, and was twice elected president of the Lamoni School Board. His son Dwight would follow in his father's footsteps by serving on numerous boards and on the Lamoni City Council. In 1945, Hyde and Vredenburg sold their company bakery to the sponsoring church. The structure was immediately converted into a Graceland men's dormitory, which was appropriately named Baker Hall. Beyond their service to their church and their commitment to civic responsibility, the deep involvement of both families during Graceland's formative years can be strongly felt still today. David Vredenburg attended Graceland beginning in 1903. His 3 children, Milton, Dwight, and Helen, all attended Graceland as well. Mabel Carlisle, Charles Hyde's second wife, was a professor of music at Graceland. 3 of Charles Hyde's children, Hortense, Mabel, and Betty Ann, were also students at Graceland. For both families, Graceland was a sort of second home. Their presence on campus and the sense of vitality that accompanied them changed the face of Graceland forever. Of all the members of the Hy-Vee family, it was Dwight and Ruth Vredenburg who made the deepest impact on the life of Graceland University. Dwight Vredenburg graduated Graceland in 1934. Ruth Taylor Vredenburg graduated in 1936. Ruth continued to make valuable contributions to Graceland in strong partnership with her husband for the remainder of her life. In 1964, the decision was made to build a new library on Graceland's campus. The Vredenburgs donated $30,000 over a 3-year period for the purpose of completing and furnishing the 3rd floor of what is now known as the Frederick Madison Smith Library, named after Graceland's first graduate. In 1982, Dwight Vredenburg was awarded the Distinguished Service Award for his lifetime of generous work on behalf of the university. In 1996, the Vredenburgs formed the Vredenburg Trio, a chamber music group with funding from money they generously gave the Graceland Music Department. Later, Dwight and Ruth placed $1 million with Graceland to establish an endowed chair in music under their name. The Vredenburgs would give millions more to Graceland over the next several years for renovations of the administration building and other projects. When asked why, Dwight Vredenburg very simply said, "Why Graceland? In the first place, Graceland is an outstanding academic institution. I went to another institution and Graceland credits transferred without question. That is still true today. Graceland is well known for its academic excellence. Secondly, Graceland builds character. I have known those who have attended Graceland, who came here without a goal, without an agenda, without any idea of where they are going, and finished with definite goals, and went on to become successful in their careers and in their later lives." Like many institutions of higher education, Graceland remains hard at work, ensuring its students continue to get a rigorous and valuable education for a new world, while holding fast to the foundational values that were imbued into young Charles Hyde and David Vredenburg and led them to build Hy-Vee as one of the largest retail supermarkets in the nation. Graceland and Hy-Vee started together a century ago in the small, dusty Midwestern farm town of Lamoni, Iowa. Today, Hy-Vee has grown into a company synonymous with quality, variety, convenience, healthy lifestyles, culinary expertise, and superior customer service. The slogan, "A helpful smile in every aisle," expresses the foundation of the company's operating philosophy. They still care about the things their first customers in Lamoni cared about: healthcare, education, the arts, leisure and recreation, the environment, economic opportunity, and civic improvement. Hy-Vee believes in cultivating the future. In its 125-year history, Graceland has faced many challenges, but remains focused on its original mission and values while casting a new vision of the institution. Taking inspiration from Charles Hyde and David Vredenburg, Graceland continues to take risks, just like its founders who decided to educate learners in a bean field in southern Iowa, like the progressive minds in the early 20th century who decided to transform a two-year college into one that granted baccalaureate degrees, like those who decided RNs needed to complete their bachelor's in nursing so they could provide better care to their patients, like those who elevated Graceland College into Graceland University. We must continue to meet the needs of those who want to learn. We live in a better world because Graceland graduates also live in it. Like Hy-Vee, our commitment to social responsibility, health and wholeness, and digital transformation continues to define us. Graceland's commitment to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion enables us to be a learner-centered community, committed to the power of together. We invite Hy-Vee to continue in this partnership, to continue the story that Hy-Vee and Graceland University started so long ago. Let's write the next chapter